Good old London back in the day. Back in the day it didn't rain. The streets were run by bad drivers and narcissistic people wearing funny hats and holding sticks. The weather's changed. The Getaway is not only an Aussie show that was running on free-to-air TV, it's also a PS2 game and a series of games, and this one you play as Mark Hammond, a former gang member whose wife was killed and his son was kidnapped. And instead of enjoying this gift of peace and quiet, for some reason he gets annoyed by it and decides to run off into the forest to save his son. By forest, I mean this warehouse. Mark discovers that his son was kidnapped by Charlie, his former gang boss, and this Charlie fellow wants you to do some jobs for him, and I don't mean the hoovering. I mean shooting up a restaurant and terrorizing the locals. You know, gang stuff. That's the basic plot. Eventually you come across a cop named Carter, but he doesn't have a funny hat. So is he a cop? The plot is pretty well thought out and well delivered. It's like you're watching one of those picture films, except you're in a constant state of frustration. The gameplay in a basic sense alternates between driving sequences and on-foot shooting sequences. It's sort of like Max Payne, but if Max Payne was done like shit. The controls are kind of wonky. You take cover with X and then you pair out with R2 and you just kind of aim and then you shoot with square, which is odd now, but back in the day I guess that was normal. It takes a while to get used to. The aiming is kind of sensitive and you're like, what? You know, at first, but if you keep your hands still, it's easier to control. You can't control the camera either, and that's really annoying because you need to know where you are in relation to the person who's shooting you. So the game basically says, you see what I want you to see, even if it doesn't benefit you. Like the ABC. I found it easier to just absurdly roll around like a mental case and hit people with my gun. The funniest part of the game is how you heal yourself. You don't have health packs, you don't just take cover like in modern games. You lean. You find a wall and you lean. It cures shock, blood loss, even death. The main problem with this, even though it's supposed to be realistic, but it's not, unless that's how they do it in London. It takes up to a minute and you're just kind of sitting there. Gone. Since there's no camera controls and the controls are a bit wonky now, you take damage pretty quickly. So the lack of camera controls and the leaning are sort of in a constant dance of retardation. So you shoot some, you lean. You roll around like a jackass, you lean. You walk a meter, you gotta lean. 1 second guys, gotta lean. So the on-foot missions are kind of jank, but you can get through them with practice. The driving sections are pretty basic. You've got the accelerate, you got the brake, you got the handbrake controls, you know, the standard, but it's trying to be realistic once again, so the cars are extra fragile. It doesn't take long to break your car down. If you're just like accidentally scrape a wall, that your car might start smoking pretty quick, and as soon as it starts smoking, you might as well just pull over and get another car. Citizens of London too are also apparently suicidal. Every time I was driving past them, they would jump in front of my car, which would damage my car. So if you hit a civilian, of course that's murder, and they obviously don't know how to lean. The police are attracted to you, not in that way. So you'll be hearing a lot of sirens a lot of the time, and you have to get rid of them by making them crash into things. But a lot of the time, the missions on the driving sequences are timed, and so this takes a lot of time, and you'll fail a lot if you play like I do, and you'll hear this jingle a lot. In the game in general, you'll just hear this jingle a lot. It's the most obnoxious jingle you've ever heard, and I don't think jingle is the right word. It's not like sleigh bells.
Santa. Mummy, Santa's here.
So the kind of cool thing about it, is that the game lacks a mini-map. And I like my mini-maps. So instead of a mini-map, you have to rely on the car's indicators, or as Americans would call them, blinkers. So the blinkers, which should be called winkers actually, wink when you need to turn left, right when you need to turn right. They don't blink or wink at all. They just kind of do nothing if you need to go straight. And they blink more times than Hugh Grant if you're at your destination. Maybe that's why Hugh Grant blinks a lot, because he's always where he needs to be. So when you arrive in your car, you just waltz into the building that you need to go in, and that would have blown people's minds that there's no loading screen between the building and the street. I would have loved that. I still do. I think that's cool. The graphics are great for the PS2 and for the early 2000s whenever this came out. The cinematics look like you're watching a movie. You know, it's not Red Dead Redemption 2, but back in the day, it would have been like, wow, ha. The voice actors did a great job with all the characters and the dialogue. It's a well-presented game.
You talk to anyone, you're late, or you let me down. Your kid died. Do I make myself clear? Crystal, what's this all about, Charlie? What are you doing this to me for? I ain't done nothing to you. You're still not paying attention. Not a very good listener, are you, son?
The Getaway is an alright game. Back in the day, it would have blown people away in 2002. I just found out it was 2002. And now it's a playable game. It's good. But the controls are jank. Prepare for the jank. If jank's your thing, have a good jank. Have a good jank. Jank you very much. Once you learn the controls, once you get used to them, you are still gonna get frustrated with the driving sequences and so the voice acting, the graphics, and especially the story is what got me through the game. But there is a major elephant in the room and plot hole that I need to mention that could have prevented the whole thing. Why didn't Mark's wife just leave? It gets a 6 out of 10 from me. Why? Because it's my channel. Scooby